Good morning, everyone. So for this next session, I'll be co-presenting with JF Caron, who's one of our solution senior engineers at Wiiisdom 360 Suite. So the goal of this session is to exchange around on best practices on migrating business objects to 4.3 and what are the best practices to migrate to PCE or to cloud. So over the years, we put together a methodology on how to migrate your business objects. So as I was mentioning earlier, we've done thousands of migrations over the years. So I would assume we're pretty familiar with the topic. So over the years, yeah, we put together that process in 10 steps that we'll cover today. That goes from the preparation to the assessment, and of course, going to moving the content to the new version to the cloud and ensuring that it all works. So we'll cover step by step this methodology. Please feel free to ask questions. As always, we'll be very happy to answer to that. Additionally to that methodology, we put another methodology together that's for business objects PCE. So it's a little bit different. There's some differences between, the other methodology and this one. So actually we'll do a mix, and whenever there is something in the step that's relevant to PCE, we'll be covering it. Well, the first step is preparation. So as we were discussing earlier, you need to understand what you have. So Jeff, what can you tell us about preparation? What are the key points?
Well, the very first thing you have to decide is what type of migration you're going to do. Are you going to do an in-place upgrade, or are you going to do side-by-side? And as far as I'm concerned, I mean, side-by-side wins every time. It's safer. You don't disrupt your existing environment, especially if anything goes wrong. So that's my preference.
Well, in that regards, we've also got some content on side-by-side or in place. Is anybody an in-place fan in here? No, so actually that's good. I like that. That's there's always someone who says I want in place, and we've got some good arguments. Okay, I see you down there. You'd better go and hide, because we'll need to have some conversations together afterwards. So in terms of preparation as well, is if you want to do a cloud migration, something that you need to think about is, are you going to do a hybrid or are you going to do a full cloud? The key thing there is, okay, what do you want to do? And just be aware that if you've got a hybrid model, definitely you need to think about latency. So, the more you put things together, definitely the higher the performances are. The further away, the more latency you're going to have.
You want also to take a good picture of the configuration you have right now. What does your current system look like? And we will go in step 2 in further detail about what your current system is.
And in business objects, you've got lots of information available to help you to do the right decisions in your preparation, because you've got lots of metadata coming from the CMS, from the file store, and from the audit database. Additionally, one thing that's very important is when you do the preparation is you need to assess the impact to all your business users, because again, this is an IT migration and you need to be aware that business is using BOBJ, and you want to make sure that they're not impacted by that, because if they are, they're going to go after you for sure. Specifically for PC at a high level, what can you tell us, JF?
Well, first of all, you have to be aware that it is going to be a new install. It's going to be a side-by-side, and it's going to be a Linux environment. So there are a few limitations, especially for Crystal reports, legacy Crystal. And you will not have access to the hardware itself. So just keep that in mind. Also, think about your disaster recovery strategy. We'll actually cover that in another section. There are a few differences right there.
And there's another important part when you go to PC as well, is about your audit database. So today, I'm assuming, and I hope all of you have got your audit turned on in Business Objects. The thing is, when you go to PC, it's a new install. As a result, it's not going to take all your audit information.
But we have a solution for that. So we'll cover it as well.
Definitely. And then so here, and these slides will be shared after this presentation through email, is, that's an article that we have. Do you want to go side by side or in place, except one gentleman here that we need to have some serious arguments with. I think everybody's basically is convinced by side by side. If you want to read about it, it's in this article.
Also, you have to consider where you're coming from. If you are unfortunate enough to be in 3.1, you will have to go through an intermediate step. You will first have to upgrade to 4.2 before you can go to 4.3. If you're in 4.1 or above, there's a direct path to the new version. So you'll be good there.
And earlier we were talking about versions. So actually somebody was hiding in this room where they just turned off their 3.1. And I'm very happy because they had, I think, 1.5 million documents. And so it's been a big challenge anyway for them to upgrade to 4.2, or I think it's 4.2 that you're removing. So, again, that's congrats. And that was a heck of a job for you guys. I know that was a couple of years work because your environment was so complex. So there are still quite a few environments, that are still in 3.1. It happens occasionally, and there are still some out there. So it's not something, unusual, I would say. In terms of metadata, I was saying earlier, is actually with 360, the cool thing today, when you're in BobJ, realistically, you're going to have access to metadata from the auditor, of course, and then from the CMS. The cool thing with 360 is also you're going to extract information from the file store, FRS in, FRS out. You're able to mix and brew this information and then do BI on BI out of that. And what that is it's going to allow you to understand what's used and, more importantly, what's not used, because whenever you do preparation, you want to know what's not used. That's the key. And additionally, there's an option to have access to all the metadata from, or some of the metadata from SAP data services. Step 2 is about evaluation. So Jeff, what can you tell us about that?
You want to measure. You want to know exactly what you have in your system in terms of number of documents, universes, how big those universes are, the actual size in gigabytes of the information you have, identify who your users are. There's the whole scheduling question. All of that has to be measured beforehand, because you want to size your target system appropriately, especially if you're going to a cloud solution.
And in terms of evaluation, so we've got some good examples. For example, here, this is actually a report that's pre-canned of 360 eyes. That's going to give you information about how many documents you have, how many instances you have, how much space they take. So this is really important information when you want to do sizing, when you want to do any type of upgrade or migration, of course, in particular to the cloud. JF?
Yeah, so usage or non-usage, again, that is key, right? With this is one of our canned report. You can see exactly for each document in your system what has been used, how frequently it has been used, and what has not been used. And based on that, you can decide, and that will come at a further step, what you will actually transport to the new system and what you will archive and or simply delete. Same here. So that's a very granular level where you can pinpoint exactly what's been done for certain specific documents. Another very useful tool, and you will probably relate to that, how to identify duplicate reports in your system. Well, they have renamed it. They're in different folders. We have a technique that allows us to calculate let's call it a checksum. And when it's identical, we have a very high level of confidence that the reports are actually identical. If you look at this example here, they're all over the place in name and folder, but we know that we actually have just 2 reports on that list.
And realistically, it's not unusual to see reports duplicated 20, 30 times within, an environment. So it happens pretty often where somebody says, hey, I'm going to take that report, I'm going to copy it, do my own version. And the reality is this happens all the time.
Sounds like you've been in the real world, huh?
Yeah, I've actually seen a case where it was over 50 times. So the funny thing is each time we help customers do some migrations with partners, is we'll always do bets with customers saying, hey, how many reports have been duplicated and what's the biggest number? So it's always a fun bet to do with customers. And usually I tend to say, we win and we've got the exact number. So also the other cool report we've got here is we've got a report here to have you understand how many licenses are you really using? How many concurrent sessions you need. So for example, if you go to PCE, there is basically, it's very important that you know this. And there's some path from SAP that they will offer you to basically to convert some of these licenses that you're not using to some other SAP solution. So there is a path on that. And I would recommend that you speak to your SAP rep on that. And here it's another version of the report where we're able to track all the concurrent sessions. Jeff, about this report?
Scheduling as well. There's probably some savings to be achieved there. So we can report exactly in terms of recurring schedules, but also completed instances, including failed ones, that will let you analyze, if something constantly fails, it's probably not useful anymore, and basically tailor that to your new system.
Because here as well on the scheduling is you're able to monitor how many schedules you've got and then also how long they take. So that's one of the benchmarks, which is very critical for you when you'll be doing your migration, particular to the cloud. So, okay, here's the first question that we have is when we run 360 eyes for the first time at our customers, how much content on average was never used in the past 13 months? So let's say I've got like 3 Amazon gift cards to give away here. So I see Scott here is like, he knows the answers and I'm not going to allow you to cheat. I'm not surprised that you're trying to do that. We need to have a conversation together. So on average, after 13 months, so how much content has not been used? So who's got a good answer? So, sir?
50.
So what's your best number?
50%.
50%. If you lose, beers on you or barbecues on you after. So, okay, what's your percentage?
I'll say 75.
75.
70%.
70%.
80.
Anybody lower? Usually it's people always start low. Come on. 66.
65.
65. Who said 60? So you're actually the closest to the reality. So the reality is it's 61%. So congrats to you. So, Amazon gift card, who had actually the worst answer? Because I'm actually going to ship you through Amazon or Broom so that you can do the cleanup. So who had the worst number here? So who had 75? So, we need to exchange your address and actually we'll send you a Broom through Amazon. So, and I want to see a picture with you and the Broom afterwards. So, but that was a good number. So overall, we've done so many assessments with customers to help them plan their migrations, do their migrations. And we've seen on average, it's 61% on that.
Yeah. And if you wonder why 13 months, it's because we want to capture any annual reports that would be in there.
Yeah, that's why we use the 13 months rule, because sometimes if it's 12, something might fall in between the cracks. So step 3, backup and cleanup.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before you clean up, you want to make sure that you don't over clean up. And so you need a backup. 360 Plus offers a very neat backup solution that's incremental. So by design, you'd never back up unused, useless things. And it also works at an individual level. So it can be used both for disaster recovery and individual restore when, you know, a little boo-boo happens. We also manage a real recycle bin. So even if your business objects recycle bin has been emptied, we can still go back and retrieve documents.
And then there's another important part here is in terms of cleanup, especially if you go to the cloud, the more you can clean up, the faster your migration is going to be and the lower cost is going to be. So that's really critical. So imagine you got like 61% of content that's not used. I mean, seriously, are you going to move all that to the new environment? Are you going to move that all to the cloud, to 4.3, wherever it is? It's ridiculous. I mean, it's like if you do a move, when you're moving somewhere, you want to get rid of what you're not using. So here it's very critical to find out that content and to archive it. I'm not saying to clean it up or to delete it. That can happen later on. And there are different federal rules on that. But please make sure you do the cleanup because there is a direct impact to your migration costs. So again, here is like 61% of the content in general on average is, you know, you don't need to move it. So just don't move it because it's just additional problems because you have to test that content. It's just very, very painful to do. So that's really a good practice. And to your point, you were saying 75%, you know, it's actually, we see customers with 70%, 75% of content that they've cleaned up. In fact, we'll show you an example here from a federal agency where they had actually quite a bit of content that they've cleaned up with 360 and it saved them a lot of time to do all their migration.
And for the people, the very few people who still use UNVs here in the room, it's the right time to think about conversion because, well, as you know, they're on the way out. UNX is the way to go. You have more features there. The problem is always once you have converted, you have to repoint all your webbies to the new UNX. And we offer a bulk option to do that with 360 view. So we can take care of that for you, and pre-migration would be a good time to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And usually we, you know, there are two approaches, but pre-migration is always better. So on this slide here, we're showing actually with 360 what we can back up and, you know, the different levels of granularity for that. You see specifically here is it's incremental. So in this case, you've selected like 5 different incremental backups. So 5 versions that you can roll back to. On the cleanup here, that's actually a customer. So actually, I forgot about it, was actually 80%. So they were able to clean up 80% of their environment. So this happens sometimes even more. No, it was not a bad answer. I mean, it was not the typical answer. You'll still get your broom. You know, I see, you know, you're trying to.
It's a good answer, but it's the wrong answer.
Yeah. So anyway, specifically here, they were able to reduce their space by 80%. So again, that was a lot less trouble for them and a lot faster to do their migration. What can you tell us about archiving? So what are the different ways?
So you have different options depending on where you're going with that. As far as instances go, we can archive them to an external support, an external folder, for example, and actually remove them optionally from your business object system, but they're still available there. As far as the active documents go, we can actually hide them so that they're completely inaccessible by anyone but the administrator. So it's a way to deprecate reports, but they're still there in case somebody suddenly realizes that their life depends on it. We can just make them available within seconds.
And if you do it right, if you can do this step actually in advance, the cool thing there is you can hide that content from users. It was actually an idea from one of our customers who's in this room where we hide this content. And if people don't complain, let's say after a year or whatever, you know, you can actually go ahead and really, because this is actually pseudo archiving when we hide. So we just change the security. After that, you can actually do real archiving. So that's just a good way to prepare your migration and avoid a lot of problems. Again, that's the same thing as we're just archiving here and just showing some examples of archiving unused content. UNV to UNX?
Yeah, we touched on that already. So the actual conversion itself is fairly simple. It's going to be done with the information design tool, the IDT. But as I mentioned earlier, once you have converted your universes, you have to repoint all your documents to the new universes. And that's what 360 View does for you. After the repointing, you can pull reports that show you actually what has been done and what's ready to go.
And you're able to bulk repoint everything. So that's quite time saving. So step number 4, it's about promotion. So promotion can be quite of a challenge with BobJ. That's why we put together different ways to do the promotion. What can you tell us about that, Jeff?
Well, promotion again will be available at a granular level. Granted, you will probably do it in large chunks, but you keep full control over the process. You can manage your dependencies. It can be done in one shot, incrementally, or there's also a delta option that will be used, and we'll actually revisit that after your initial promotion. You can bring in the delta, but we'll cover it.
Another important thing is when you promote your content, the $1,000,000 question also is, has everything been promoted? Have all the objects been promoted? So there is a way here where you can document all the objects and ensure that all these documents were actually promoted. Trust me, that's the type of questions that people will be asking you. And here you're able to document that. So that's very important that you have access to that type of information. So here, that was the answer to the first quiz that we did. We've got another quiz after that, where we've got another game that we'll be doing after. That's quite a lot of fun. So step 5, backup and cleanup. So
wait, didn't we already say that?
Yeah. So tell us about that. Is that something from our marketing department or something like that, or
yeah,
is that true?
They mixed up the slides. No, actually, you saw it on the diagram as well. Sometimes you don't have the option of doing your cleanup beforehand, or you prefer to do it after the fact. So yes, that's why we have that extra step, or you did part of it and then we do the rest here. Having said that, whatever you can do pre-migration is the best, and hopefully you have nothing left to do here.
And here, if you want, again, you can always do the UNV to UNX, but yeah, we just recommend that you do it before the migration. So step 6. So actually earlier we hit a little bit on this topic with Jeff that was talking about how Webby documents can be optimized. So tell us about that. What are the best steps for that? What can you do?
Well, we have the ability with 360 Eyes to identify, and we've seen the reports that are not used, but we can go even one step further, and within universes, well, we can also identify which universes are not used, but within universes, what objects are not used. And that will allow us to, do some stripping on the Webby reports, get lighter universes. And of course, we have the scheduling, we have the statistics on that. We can improve that. And here's an example of objects used and not used in universes. Hey, we see which ones are candidates for cleanup.
And again, yeah, clean what you're not using. That's critical.
Again, same thing here. So different display of objects used and not used from universes.
And you can even see the amount of how much it was used. So step 7. So step 7 is very critical for any upgrade, any migration, because it's all about quality. So the thing is again, this is an IT migration, and you want to make sure that it's seamless to your users. So because at the end they want to make sure that they can trust their data. So here it's all about testing, whether it is on Webby, Crystal, Analyst for Office as an example. So here what we're able to do is, let's say on the left version, this is let's say a 4.2 version on-prem, and let's say on the right, it's a 4.3 version on the cloud. So here we're able to compare side by side the Webby document, or these documents, and we're able to pinpoint the differences. So the tool is going to tell you, here are the differences. Here, you see, obviously the data is different. The image is different. We're also able to compare the execution time. So you don't see it on that, but we're able to see that. The cool thing as well is we're also able to document all the changes. So because the other question will be from all your QA teams, from all your risk teams is, has it been tested? Well, yes. Well, can you prove it to me? Well, here's the proof, here are the reports of all the documents that were tested. So that's very important. And again, like each time you do a change somewhere, like I like to say, it's like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. So I see Scott laughing on that because I use that example so often, but the reality is, you've got a box of chocolate. It always looks good. There's always something that's bitter, and it never, it's always the same thing. So in fact, in the past, at some old, a couple of years ago, I used to bring some chocolate boxes, and we used to joke about that. The other part as well, it's about metadata. So
yes, Forrest. So
thank you, Gump.
we have here the comparison of your security system, same approach. You can pinpoint through that report what may be different between the before and after, and make sure your security is still valid. And that can be actually very critical in case you didn't know that.
Scott, by the way, in the, on the table in the back down there, there are two sets of Webby documents. So it's a before and after. So what I'd like you guys to do is if you can just share one version, 2 sheets to everyone, and then let us know how many errors you find. So again, we'll do the same thing as we'll give an Amazon gift card for the person who finds, all the errors the quickest. So it's a lot of fun. Go ahead. Yeah, you got a question. Go ahead.
Yeah. Can we have a microphone, perhaps?
This particular screenshots here, what you guys are finding is not necessarily the access control. You basically look in the name of the access control instead of the granularity of the control, correct?
Well, and on this particular screenshot, yes, that's why you see advanced. We have access to the granular level if we need to, but yes, it will detect granular differences as well. Although I'll argue that we don't recommend using granular security.
Okay. No, in order to find the difference. Otherwise, you're going to be just looking at, okay, just the advanced versus full versus view access. That's pretty much in the high level you're looking at it.
Yes, on this screenshot. But again, the detailed information is available.
Thank you.
And pretty much there, we're able to compare any metadata because we're just taking screenshots at different times. So step number 8. So impact analysis.
So we have 360 bind. You're actually playing the role of that product right now. And yes, you will find regressions. Now, they can be of different kinds. Let's take the example of a calculation engine change. That's not unheard of. Now, that's fine. There's a problem. How do you fix it, right? So the impact analysis reports will let us find out which error is present where, which documents are impacted by that error. And that allows us in turn to go back and bulk fix those errors. So again, example, calculation engine changed, the syntax for a formula has changed. We can, well, it's a perfect illustration of that. You have found in this particular example, which is, by the way, a real life example, we found over the 240 documents we've tested, 28 are non-confirming. There's a difference. So using 360 eyes, we identified that in reality, there are 596 documents, because we didn't test them all, that are impacted by that. And then with 360 view, which is our bulk update, among other things, product, we can bulk update all those formulas to bring everything back into compliance.
And it all works seamlessly. So it all works together and it's completely integrated. So in this example, yes, it's taking 4 hours to test 12,000 reports. There is just one thing that you need to know is initially, you use a testing tool. So you need to set up the tool to tell it, what to test, what are the values, etc. So once you've done that work, basically it is automated and the tool will do all that for you. And the cool thing is once you've done it once, you can basically redo the same thing. So
Absolutely. And in this case, you will probably run a second pass to make sure that, yes, it was actually corrected.
So who knows, like in the audience, like how many errors? 5? Any lower, higher? 6? Anybody 4? Anybody 7, 8?
Isn't the name of the game 7 Differences?
I don't know.
All right.
I'm kind of disappointed. So come on. So the right number has not been found yet. So, well, we'll challenge you after. How many? No. Definitely, you don't have eagle eyes. So, you've got lots of good things, but I'm not going to credit you with that capability. So. Yeah, the funny thing is, yes. Yes, definitely. So the funny story for this tool is actually our CEO, he used to do the same job than all of you. And he used to have to do all the testing. And at that time, he used to work for a big oil and gas firm. I can't mention the name. And guess what is, as you know, he had to test all these documents. And, unfortunately, he would not print all the documents and go on the top, on the top floor where you got all the nice light, in general, like he would say, I used to work in basements, unfortunately, and the light was not very good. So he said, I would print the documents. I try to find some good light, put them on the top of each other. Eventually, sometimes after that, he got 2 screens. So he would just do comparisons with 2 screens and try to spot all the errors. Well, realistically, it's not a good job for humans, and there are things that you will miss. And obviously you guys, and there's some simple errors, but you've missed a couple of them. So, but that's actually how this idea came from for that tool, because we know how painful that is, and how painful it is to get people to complain about quality. Jeff, what can you tell us about this report here? So
this is an example of impact analysis research. So this shows you which document uses what data provider, what universe, so you can track down any discrepancies that you need to fix. Similar here, again, universe object versus document.
And are we covering freehand SQLs or not?
We do handle it. I don't think we have a screenshot on that, but definitely we can bring you the tables and columns used.
So step 9. So by the way, anybody else, like how many errors? Anybody with a different number? 8? Anybody else? What's your number? No. Gosh, guys, I'm sorry about it. It looks like
I think you need a tool for that.
yeah, I'm very disappointed, I have to say. So sorry about that.
6.
So step 9, well, I'll give you the answer. I think we can do it, is like it's 7. So
Really?
Yep.
Ah, I didn't know that. But that's really the name of the game,
Yeah. Okay, step 9 is all about going live. So what are the key parts when you're going live?
Well, I think that you rarely do all your migration over a weekend. It's usually a lot of work. It takes a long time. So what happens is that you did an initial promotion, you did all of your regression testing, you fixed every regression you found, and now you're ready to go live. But, well, speaking of life happens, and your users continued, developing reports, modifying them. So what you want to do is a delta promotion, where you're going to grab everything that has changed since the last promotion and import it. 360 Plus does it for you. You don't have to keep a manual log of who changes what. And of course, somebody will not log what they've done. And there you go. You have your Delta promotion.
And then step number 10 is comply. So there are a lot of things in that step, and we won't go through everything. The key thing there, especially in a regulated environment or in regulated environments, is you've got a lot of federal requirements. So for example, you guys all heard, has anybody not heard about Data Act in this room? Okay, good. So everybody heard about it, so that's good. So overall, what Data Act does or tells you to do in terms of IT is you need to catalog all the objects you have. You need to understand all the lineage of all the objects you have. So that's something that we do very well, and you're able to extract. Additionally, you're able to monitor all your PII information. You're able to tag all the sensitive content. So for example, if you're leveraging FIPS 199-200, where you need to find out what's low, medium, high sensitivity, you're able to monitor all these objects. So this is the type of information that we're able to document. Additionally, there's one point that there's so many that we could probably spend an hour on this slide, but there is one important part that we want to bring up is about backup. So typically when we talk to customers, they tell us, oh, you know what, I don't need any backup solution. I don't need a DR solution because we have a VM. We're going to the cloud. Well, the reality is it's not that simple. And most of the time it's not the right answer because people are not completely educated. So JF, what can you tell us about handling a backup on the cloud and the limitations of VMs?
So VM backups are nice, and that is supposing you have everything in the same VM, which is not always the case. But even so, if ever anything gets corrupted, well, the corrupted version will be backed up. And if you restore that, you're not any farther than you were before the problem. So that's why you need a true backup solution that validates that and has multiple versions of each object. Plus, that type of backup covers only a complete disaster. If you have the need to restore a folder or individual objects, that doesn't help you at all.
And if you're on the cloud, you've got like an A and a B site, that's very common, of course, in different zones, hopefully. Basically, your B site is typically acting as a VM. And so, of course, if your A site is corrupted, your V site is corrupted, which means that you will not be able to recover. Okay, so you will have some issues unless you have an incremental backup on that. So that will be a challenge. So that was all. So this presentation actually has got a lot more slides that were not shown today. So it's going to be available afterwards.